Hi there, everyone. My name is Lydia Martinez, and I'm here today with Derek Miller from the Salt Lake Chamber and the Downtown Alliance. Derek, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Lydia. Thanks for letting me be part of this.
So delighted to have you here. You're sitting in downtown Salt Lake City. The chamber offices, the Downtown Alliance offices are right there. And so you have a really unique kind of front and center perspective on homelessness in downtown Salt Lake City. Can you talk to us a little bit about how businesses in Salt Lake City are impacted by homelessness here in our town?
Sure, and maybe it would be helpful as we get started in the conversation to define what we mean by homelessness. Often when I talk with people, especially those in the business community, they tend to lump all of homelessness into one category. And I actually think it's important that we define the different types of homelessness because that helps us to figure out what the solution that's
Mm.
best tailored for the type of homelessness. So I am far from an expert on homelessness, but I'm certainly a stakeholder in the issue and a stakeholder that wants to be educated and informed. And so, in my experience, one type of homelessness and the one that the shelters that we have are usually geared towards are those who experience homelessness on a temporary basis. That usually there's a life emergency, something unexpected has come up, a bill or another expense, and it pushes them across that line, and suddenly they find themselves in need of temporary shelter. For others, homelessness is a chronic problem, and temporary shelter is not going to address their challenge. They really need ongoing. And then there's a third category, which in my experience is often the most visible category of homelessness, and those are the people who we see living on the streets. For these individuals, having shelter is actually, although that certainly is a pressing need, it's actually not the most pressing need because those people are what we call service resistant, meaning it
Mm.
doesn't really matter how many beds we have or how many shelters we build. These are individuals, for one reason or another, that don't want to avail themselves of those services. That's usually because of either drug abuse, substance abuse issues, or mental illness. And so, as I said, I think it's important for us to understand the different categories. You asked the question, what is the concern of the business community? And certainly, we're concerned about all of these categories of homelessness, but we recognize that each different category needs its own different and tailored solution to overcome that challenge. Particularly with those who are living on the streets, we're concerned about their health. We're concerned about their well-being. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see how some people are living. In fact, it's not really living at all. We applaud the efforts of those who are reaching out to try to help those individuals, including a team that we have at the Downtown Alliance, the Downtown Ambassadors. If you spend much time downtown, you see them walking around wearing their black and yellow jackets. They're there to provide help and assistance to those individuals living on the streets.
Tell us a little bit more about that ambassador program. What are people, uh, what is it that they are empowered to do? How is it that they can provide support? Because I don't think that a lot of people realize that that program exists.
Yeah, probably the most important thing about that program is for people to realize they're not law enforcement. So
Yeah.
they're not there to act as police officers. They're not there to enforce any laws, including the no camping laws. They're really there as a partnership between the business community and Salt Lake City itself in the downtown area to provide immediate relief to those who are in dire situations. So the sad truth is, as I mentioned, many of those living on the streets suffer from substance abuse problems. Often they find themselves in crisis because of that. And so the downtown ambassadors are there to help those who are really in that crisis mode.
Well, and I love that word ambassador because it implies a sense of reaching out, of coming together, of meeting people, in this case, quite literally where they live, and creating that sense of connection and support.
we are so grateful for what they do. It's not an easy job, as you would expect, but it's one that's so needed. And our downtown ambassador team, they're really the best of the best.
Amazing. And so, so that's one of the ways where, the Chamber, the Downtown Alliance is kind of helping and supporting the business community in helping to solve some of the challenges that come with our homeless population. What are some other ways that that the chamber is involved with trying to have great conversations and come up with good solutions for some of the challenges that we're all facing?
Well, certainly, it's one of the primary efforts that we are supporting is what we're here to talk about today, and that's the Other Side Village. We are not just proponents and advocates of it, but we're great supporters and want to do all we can to encourage it. I mentioned these three different categories of homelessness, and in my opinion, what the Other Side Village does is really address that second category, that chronic homelessness. It's not temporary. It's not those who are service resistant, but it's those who want to do better, but so often lack either the resources or in some cases even the life skills. They've got to have people, mentors, people in their life who are helping them to build and develop those life skills. And so we're big supporters of the Other Side Village because we're excited about what it'll do for those homeless friends.
And the Other Side Village is kind of a radical solution in that it is a fully supportive community versus just, say, a housing voucher or something along those lines. What were your thoughts when you first heard about the village and what the Other Side is attempting to do with it?
Well, I was excited about it, and mostly because I was familiar with the work of the Other Side Academy, one of our neighbors here in downtown. And I've had a few opportunities to go there and see the work that's done, and most importantly, meet and talk with the individuals that are going through that program that live there at the Other Side Academy. What I really love about it, and this applies not just to the Other Side Academy, but it's a model that we'll see implemented in the Other Side Village, and that is that it's built on life principles of accountability and responsibility. And then not just those principles, but coupled with the support and the mentorship that those individuals need. As I mentioned earlier, in many cases, for most of us, these are principles that we learned from our family, from our parents, from other adults who helped us. But we have to recognize there are many people in our society that did not grow up in a situation where they were learning these kinds of skills along the way. So they need people now to help them learn these skills. And I think it's the thing that I love the most about the Other Side Village is that it'll see those principles that we see working at the Other Side Academy applied to this effort to address chronic homelessness in our community.
Yeah, I've had a unique opportunity to go with the Other Side Village to some of the homeless encampments and have conversations with some of the people that are living there. And the thing that was so interesting for me is a lot of them talked about how they had this kind of catastrophic loss of family or of community or of support system, or they never had it in the first place. And you can draw a line between that loss directly to, people ending up on the street for one reason or another. And to me, what you said about rebuilding that community and giving people that resource of mentors, people to help them, people to guide them, somebody that's there very unconditionally, that I think is going to make all the difference in the world.
My very first visit to the Other Side Academy, I had the chance to meet with one of the residents there, and he talked about his previous life living on the streets. And, I think most of us can try to imagine what that would be like, but it'd probably be hard for us to give any reality to what our mind may come up with. But he described in some detail what it was like to live on the streets. And and why he was living on the streets and some of the things that he'd missed in his life and some of the mistakes that he'd made in his life. But he concluded his comment, and I'll never forget what this gentleman said. He said, living on the streets took everything from me, and it didn't give me anything in return except despair.
Yeah.
And he talked about his experience at the Other Side Academy and how it taught him these principles of accountability, of responsibility, but ultimately what it gave him was personal worth. And that the value that comes with living your life according to those principles. And I'm excited about the Other Side Village because I know that it will have that same power to change people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's really about. Talk to me about what your hopes are for the village, 3 years, 5 years down the road, past the planning stages, past the initial building stages, but an established village.
Well, obviously, it'll be a catalyst for change. It'll change lives. It'll save lives. I also think it'll be a catalyst for change in the community where it's located, meaning it'll help bring investment. It'll help with development in that area. And so what I love about it is it really is a win-win. It's a win for those who will live there. It's a win for the community. But the other reason, or what I see in the next 3 to 5 years, is actually beyond just the village itself, because it will, in addition to providing a catalyst, it'll also provide a model that we can build from in other parts of our city, in other parts of our state, and I'm really excited about that over the coming years.
So the city council is coming up on a vote on the village soon, on the location. What is your message to them?
Well, my message would be clear, and that is our community needs the village, and those individuals who are most at risk need this village. So of course I encourage all the members of the city council to approve the village, support its development, support its completion. And I've been involved in the world of public policy for a large part of my career, and I recognize that many issues in public policies, many issues that elected officials deal with, they're often complicated and complex, but in this case, it's actually quite simple. We see the need, we have a solution, and the Other Side Village will create wins for our homeless friends, the business community, as well as the community at large.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Is there anything else, Derek, that you would like to add here at the end?
Well, I would just add that this really is more than just a business imperative. We talked about some of the impacts of homelessness and the encampments and those living on the streets on business, and certainly that's important. But at the end of the day, there's something more important than the economic imperative, and that's the moral imperative. This idea of doing nothing. Sometimes I hear this idea of just let people live however they want to live. And in my mind, that is really apathy cloaked as compassion, which there's not much more perverse than apathy cloaked as compassion. It's not enough for us to say, let people live this way. Living on the streets is no kind of living at all. We have to do better as a community, as a business community, as elected officials, as a community at large in helping our brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, Derek Miller, for joining me today. I really appreciate your insight. And for those of you that would learn about the Other Side Village and what it is that we're trying to accomplish, we're going to pop the link into the comments here so that you can see that. Again, thank you so much for being with us today, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.